G'day guys, Justin here. Bear with me, got a bit of a croaky voice, but welcome into another NBA playoff summary video. This time on the best second round performers in the semis of the 2018 NBA playoffs. Two series played in the East and two series played in the West. So without further ado, let's get into it. As we look at the first matchup, it was the first seed versus the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference, Toronto versus Cleveland, and it was Cleveland coming out with a sweep against what some are calling LeBronto. LeBron dominating the series, and for me was the MVP, and had his teammates certainly step up and give him some assistance, which allowed his game to prosper, that's for sure. So the MVP of the series for me, LeBron James of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he continued to put up some great numbers. 34 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, 11.3 assists per game, 1.8 steals per game, and 1 block per game on only 2 turnovers. So an uber efficient series for LeBron. Again, you've got to look at the fact that his jump shot really was struggling. He had a couple of big shots during the series. And they wrapped the series up pretty convincingly in Game 4. But LeBron with pretty much two of the biggest. He had one big shot against Indiana to end the series, and he had a big shot here during the Toronto series. But certainly played some good ball. Again, the clutch myth that's always surrounded him. He is delivering in these big moments, but you do need to understand there is a big difference between hitting a game winner with the score tied and hitting a game winner with you being behind. But anyway, again, completed the sweep reasonably easy and delivered in most of the games. I'd suggest that 3 of the 4 games were really what he delivered in. 2 of the 4 really, probably give him a total 3 out of 4 pass by the time you calculate the quarters. But game 1 and 4 for him were the ones that left a little bit to be desired. We were scoring most of his points in Game 4 after the game was well and truly won. Whether it was the below performance triple-double that they still got the win in. Again, this is what I mean about his teammates stepping up. But nonetheless, he certainly delivered in games 2 and 3. But we'll go through the games that they won, which was all 4 of them. In Game 1, had the triple-double, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 13 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks and only 1 turnover. Unfortunately, his shooting has been going out the window a little bit from 3-point land and free throw line. So his field percentage dropping in this game was almost crucial as to why Toronto should have gotten away with a win here. But nonetheless, when you look at it, he did have he did shoot 40% from the field. Again, free throw and 3-point well and truly to be looked at and improved upon. 12.5 from 3 and 16.7 from the free throw line. Game 2, another big 40-point game for him. These playoffs, he's been really turning it on with the points department, which has been good to see. And really, that's what's going to be needed for them to win games. He's going to have to really score the basketball, throw out his rebounds and assists. He's got to start playing some defense. But more importantly, he's going to have to score as well. So 43 points, 8 rebounds, 14 assists. Can't fault that. 1 steal. Again, his defense really needs to pick up. If he plays, he will eventually play a Houston or a Golden State if they get through the Boston series of the conference finals. As it looks now at the time of recording this video, Boston is up 1-0 and Golden State is up 1-0 in this respective series. But if he plays a team like that, he's got no choice. Against Boston, he's got no choice but to defend because, they can really stretch the floor. And hell, if he's going to play Golden State or Houston, if he doesn't defend, there's no chance they've got in that series. But again, 43 points, 8 rebounds, 14 assists, 1 steal and only 1 turnover. So a good, efficient game there. One of the better shooting performances he had, however, 50% from the free throw line, a lot to be desired. 67.9 from the field, that was great. 33.3%, he's been shooting well below average from the free throw line in this series. So, you've only got to look at his shooting percentages there. Below 60% from the stripe and under 20% from deep on the series. So he has to do a bit of work, but again, 33.3 from deep, not too bad. He's usually 37, 38% and 50% from the free throw line. He needs to shoot a good 70, 75% for them to have any sort of a chance. Game 3, 38.6 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and a block on 4 turnovers. Reasonably good game, had the scoring going. Game winner, can't complain there. 53.8 from the field, 25 from deep. Again, need to see that improve. 81.8 from the free throw line. Certainly no complaints there. He should be shooting that in a regular season anyway, which he still struggles to do. Hit that game winner. Toronto should have trapped him in the corner. They shouldn't have let him just barge in like they should have, like they did. Force him to give up the ball, double team in the backcourt. Again, it goes to OT. There's a good chance the Cavs win anyway. It's just how LeBron has been playing. But nonetheless, he hit the game winner and they advanced on to game 4, where again his teammates really stood up. He didn't have to do too much. 29 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists. Those 29 points fairly deceptive considering he scored a majority of his points from halftime onwards, where the game was pretty much sealed. I don't think the margin really dropped down to 14 there for Cleveland. That's when he scored a lot of his points. So, he really could have just taken a back seat to rest up a bit more. Standing around on D seems to be the way he preserves his energy. He just sort of stood around for the first half in this one while the teammates did most of the work. But either way, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals and a block on 2 turnovers. Again, shooting to be desired, 63.2 from the field. Again, the way he scores the ball, he should be scoring that high. Didn't make a 3-point shot. That was poor. 62.5% from the stripe. That's poor. Again, the guy should be shooting 75% from the free throw line. That's his career averages. But it would be ideal for him to be shooting 80%. And that's again why when he's not able to get inside that his jump shot fails him, because he just doesn't have an efficient jumper or shooting stroke. But nonetheless, LeBron James, the MVP of this Eastern Conference semi-final series versus Toronto, which now sees Cleveland currently playing the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference finals. Moving ahead to the Western Conference, this was the first versus fifth matchup in the semi-finals, and it was Houston defeating Utah 4-1. And my MVP for this series was Chris Paul, predicated on the fact that games 4 and 5 he was by far and away the best player, and his efficiency on both ends of the floor was far superior to that of James Harden. Chris Paul had 24.6 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6.2 assists per game, 2.2 steals, and 0.2 blocks. Now, I know a lot of people are going to sit there and go, well, Harden had more points and he had the same defensive numbers. Yeah, but he turned the ball over more and his shooting was well to be desired in comparison. Only 2 turnovers a game for Chris Paul, 48.4 from the field, 44.1 from deep, 84.2 from the stripe. That's where his numbers should be. That's a really efficient scoring series for him, and a really effective possession series for him as well. So really played out of his mind. Game 1, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Not bad for a second option, but for a guy who can really turn it on, again, 7 turnovers, well to be desired. I mean, as you can see there, he had 7 of, I believe he had, but I think it was 10 turnovers for the series, which would make sense. 2 and 5 is 10. So pretty much got all of his inefficiencies out of the game, and they still won. So credit to James Harden and Clint Capella and those guys for playing well. 50% from the field and 50% from the 3-point line. Actually didn't get to the stripe, which probably helps his efficiency tiny bit there, but nonetheless he made what he was given. Didn't get to the free throw line, so couldn't improve that scoring output, but nonetheless really played a solid game. Game 3, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 steal. Now, this was probably his worst performance all playoffs to date. Again, the turnover rate not there, but to be shooting that poorly is unacceptable from any elite player, which is what Chris Paul is. And it was performances like this one in Game 3 that had previously cost his career, because there would be no one to pick up the slack. And even a Game 1 where a performance like that, there wasn't anyone to sort of score the basketball and help take over or provide that sort of extra defensive presence, which is why he's only just started making the conference finals. But nonetheless, this is where James Harden was able to step up and do his bit as well. However, it should be noticed that no turnovers there, which meant that Chris Paul really made the most of his possessions compared to last game. If he'd had the turnovers there, I'd seriously think that being 2-1 down may have been a problem for Houston at that point. But 35.3 and 14.3 from deep, not good, but was able to get to the stripe and make them, so can't complain as much. Game 4 was a tremendous output for him. 27 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. I'm more impressed with Chris Paul's rebounding, and compared to that of someone like a Westbrook or a LeBron James. He's a point guard, a tiny point guard at that. And he focuses on playing defense and worrying about his opponent compared to someone like those guys. So for him to get those sort of rebounds mean that he's really had a hustle game. 2 steals and a block and only 1 turnover, so epically efficient. Again, 3-point shooting to be desired at 16.7%. However, he made more than he missed from the field, which is always a positive. You've got more chance of certainly winning a game if you're going to do that. And when he got to the line, he made his free throws, so his stroke was somewhat there still. But yeah, the ability to deliver from the field in a positive capacity, and his ability to actually get to the foul line and make shots even better. Then game 5 with a massive finish. 41 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists and 1 steal without a turnover. May just be the most efficient game that anyone's played in the playoffs so far. 59.1 field goal percent, so 6 to 10 shooting, really good night essentially. 80% from deep, so 4 of every 5, that's pretty good. 8 of every 10, can't complain. And 87.5 from the free throw line, that's tremendously good. That's great free throw shooting for anyone. So again, a point guard who's able to deliver on the scoreboard, someone who's not able to, doesn't need to turn the ball over, makes pretty much as many as they miss, and more often than not going to be an efficient shooter and can play both sides of the ball. You're bound to win. And to me, games 4 and 5 are crucial, and that's where they delivered, and Chris Paul stood up. And to me, his defensive effort and his efficiency is the reason why Houston won this series, and therefore the reason he was my Western Conference semi-final MVP for this series. Now, as we go back over to the Western Conference, it was the 2nd seed versus the 3rd seed in Boston and Philadelphia, and the young upstart, all guts and determination, Boston Celtics defeated the process convincingly, 4-1. And to me, the MVP, despite Terry Rozier putting on a great performance, was young Jason Tatum. Tatum had 23.6 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, 3.2 assists per game, 0.6 steals, 0.6 blocks, and 3 turnovers. Really isn't too bad. And when you look at his shooting, pretty good all-round numbers here. 52.6 from the field. Again, made more than he missed. 31.6 from 3. As someone who's going to be in this league for a good 12 to 15 years, he's going to need to improve that. I mean, there's a lot of players today that shoot over 35%. He's going to have to become that guy, but nonetheless, he really put in a solid effort where he could. And I can't complain there. He is only a young guy. And 81.1 at free throw shooting, certainly nothing to scoff at, certainly more than acceptable. And you've only got to see the consistency in his numbers here. In all 4 wins, scored over 20 points, played defense, was reasonably efficient shooting from the field. There was really nothing this guy didn't do, and I think the fact that Boston are going to have Kyrie and Gordon Hayward come back into this squad, they're looking at a salary cap now, I think, compared to what they're playing Cleveland in. I think they've got less than half of what Cleveland's salary cap is as far as players playing in this series currently in the Eastern Conference Finals. So for them to even win a game should be unreasonable, let alone see them even be contenders in this series. But they're a young upstart team, and it's guys like Jason Tatum that are going to keep them in it and potentially get them to the finals. Which to me would be one of the most phenomenal efforts from a team in recent history. Game 1, he had 28 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block on 4 turnovers. Shot 50% from the field, 91.7 from the free throw line, 20% from deep. That is what is going to need to be worked on. Again, he's a young guy, he's got plenty of time. But as I said, he's going to need to be a 36% three-point shooter looking forward and moving forward in his career. But again, no qualms there with his output. Game 2, 21 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal and 1 block on 2 turnovers. So again, another efficient game and efficient shooting as well. 50% from the field, 50% from deep, and 83.3 from the stripe. really no elements of his game that had really let him down over the first two games, and to me was key. Guys like Terry Rozier complimented him well, Marcus Smart complimented him well. I mean, that entire roster has been balling, so it's really hard to try and pick someone out. I mean, you could have picked, I mean, look at Horford. Horford was, in my opinion, the main reason they won that first series. And then someone like a Tatum can step up here. They don't need to rest on their laurels. They don't need to rest on one or two guys. They have a team. They have a squad, and that's why they're winning games. Just so happens that guys are able to step up in the moment and take control, which is always what you want on a deep squad. Game 3, he had 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That to me, as far as quote statistics, was his best all-around game. Contributed more in all areas. 1 steal, 4 turnovers to be desired. Again, he's only a young guy, but when you look at it, 64.7 from the field, made more than he missed. However, 3-point shooting again needs to be lifted and unacceptable from the free throw line. I don't care who you are. Making 2.5 out of 10 is not good shooting whatsoever. Even Ben Wallace would be disappointed with that. But again, he's a young fella. He's got time to develop his shooting stroke, and being more consistent from three will help that stroke all the time. Start someone like a Ray Allen, a Steph Curry, and a Steve Kerr, these guys that can really shoot the ball. Your ability to get the Mark Price, Steve Nash, your ability to shoot comes in all facets of the game, and actually just working on your technique from the free throw line is fundamental to that. And then game 5, in the closeout game, he has 25 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and only 2 turnovers. He didn't take a 3-point shot, but 53.3 from the field, made more than he missed. 81.8 from the free throw line. Again, 8 out of 10, much better than 2.5 out of 10. What more can you say? This kid is serious fire. I think they're the youngest backcourt tandem Boston currently has going now. I think it's him and Bryan, I think, are currently the youngest tandem ever to score 200 points each in a playoff series, 21 years and under. So pretty impressive and good signs for Boston, particularly if they can keep this core and they can be sacrificial to the cap and the cause, because if they do that, there are championships on the way. There are no doubt about that. And a tremendous effort. Shout out to Brad Stevens, who somehow didn't receive a single Coach of the Year vote amongst the coaches, which really, really worried me. For a guy who's done what he's done with such a young squad. But again, Jason Tatum, your MVP of your second semi-final series in the 2018 Eastern Conference. And finally, summing up these semi-final series in the Western Conference, it was Golden State taking on New Orleans, 2nd versus 6th, and Golden State came away with a win despite the fear that New Orleans could really push this series and potentially win it. They won 4-1, and Durant, to me, was the MVP. Curry played 4 or 5 games. He had some pretty impressive numbers, but to me, Durant was their best player. 27.8 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, 1.4 steals, 1.2 blocks, and only 2 turnovers. And reasonably efficient shooting. 50.5 from the field, 32.1 from deep. Again, this is a guy who can be a 37-38% three-point shooter. Hell, he can be part of a 50-40-90 club when he tries. And 81.5 from the free throw line. Can't complain there for a bloke who's near 7 foot. As you can see, his game-by-game numbers awfully similar to that of the first round. I think Durant's actually being slept on for his performance in the playoffs, and I'd be really worried if I was someone like a Cleveland, because there isn't anyone that's going to be able to defend this guy in the finals. I mean, he put up Shaquille O'Neal numbers in the finals last year with the great LeBron James and an old-ass Richard Jefferson defending him, so who knows what happens here. Anyway, Durant in this series, game 1, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers, but he shot okay. Turnovers to be desired. Probably want to see that on-ball defense up a little more, but win's a win. 47.6 from the field, 50% from deep, and 75% from the stripe. I'd probably give him a pass mark, barely on his shooting, but they got the win. What more can you say? Game 2, again, another good all-around game. Durant showing why he was at the start of the year a genuine contender for the Defensive Player of the Year. 29.6 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, if he's going to put those numbers up in the conference finals or the conference playoffs, who knows what he can do in the finals with no one playing defence on him. 29.6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks and 2 turnovers. Shot 47.8% from the field, essentially 48%. 28.6 from deep. We want to see that improve. There's no doubt about that. But again, getting to the line and making the free throws, 83.3%. That's what a lot of good scorers do. If their shot's not falling, they get to the hoop, they get the foul, and they get to the line. Durant is a player who does get the call. Again, he's a former MVP, he's a 4-time scoring champ, and he's a finals MVP. There's only 2 other guys in league history that's got that many scoring titles and also has the league MVP and the finals MVP, those being Jordan and Wilt, MJ being the perennial all-time scorer that he was able to get to the line when his shot wasn't falling. Someone like a Wilt couldn't risk getting to the line because it just wouldn't happen, but nonetheless, even though he might miss half of his free throws, the guy was still making almost 10 a game at some points. So it does give you an idea of his ability to get the line in a era where he was, quote, playing around nothing but short white guys. Game 4, after the Game 3 loss, he had responded strong, 38 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal on the block, 2 turnovers, and had his best shooting night for the series, 55.6 from the field, 40% from deep, 100% from the stripe. Clearly the reason why they won that game, and he was able to turn it on. Something that certainly aided him in this series was the return of Steph Curry. Curry, to me, brings a lot of energy and brings a hell of a lot of concern to the defense when he's on song. Whether he's been injured or not, that's going to change the perception of our coaches guarding. But when you're arguably the greatest shooter ever, you demand respect regardless of what form and your injury and health status is. So he will get a lot of relief going forward in these playoffs, Durant, there's no doubt about it. And I think that he's going to be able to take advantage. Klay Thompson been a good 3-and-D guy. He's also going to command a little bit of respect when his shot starts falling. They don't have much outside of that big 3, though. They have been struggling a fair bit, so there is a chance to contain them. But if all 3 of them get their shooting on, then no one will beat them. And to me, should still be the favourites for the championship. Probably with a Houston ahead of someone like even a Boston or a Cleveland. The Cavs, to me, are currently sitting 4th in that race, just on opinion. And Game 5 sealed the deal, 24, 6 and 7. Sort of tried to keep just the averages there, 2 steals and a turnover, and shot okay from the field again, made more than he missed, but would like to see you make a few more 3-pointers. And free throw line, Durant is a guy who should be shooting 80%, there's no doubt about that. But make no mistake about it, there is no doubt that Kevin Durant is the reason that the Golden State Warriors won that series, and to me, is on a tear, comparable with what LeBron James is doing. LeBron's doing it in a weaker conference. And yeah, to me, I just think Durant's got just as much momentum, if not more, going in to this current conference finals series. And for me, we'll have a hell of a lot of momentum going into the NBA finals, knowing that if he goes up against LeBron James, he'll be 1-1 on the record books. Both times he's been able to put 30 points a game on 50% on LeBron in the finals, i.e. 1 win and 1 loss. But I mean, he put up numbers comparable to Shaquille O'Neal. Not necessarily as dominant in that 5-game win for the Warriors last year, but I mean, his scoring and his rebounding and his efficiency were Shaq-esque. And to me, that's something that they're going to have to be really concerned about, that a dude is going to be able to do that, whilst also lock down the other end of the floor and play some good D. So, to me, Golden State are the favourites for the championship, and if I was going to pick anyone for a playoff MVP spot, it may very well be Kevin Durant at the moment. That's been me, guys. Thank you very much for bearing with me in this video. My voice is absolutely shot after a quality trip to Melbourne. That's the only way I will describe that one. A lot of fun and a lot of good times had. But thank you very much for watching Thank you very much for watching this video. Hit that like button and leave a comment. Let me know how you saw the second round unfold, how you see the conference and NBA finals unfolding. Who do you think were the best players in each series? Who do you think will be the best players in the future series? And do you think there's anyone that I may have missed that deserves some credit? And subscribe to the channel for more videos. Again, I will be doing the updates for the conference players, the conference finals, and then i.e. the NBA finals. And then, yeah, during the off-season, I'll be doing a few different notes, seeing how everyone pulled up in the draft. Not that I have a rough idea about how these guys play, but yeah, go through the draft, see what your team ends up with, and a few other topical videos in the off season. So still plenty of action to come on the channel. And as always, hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan. Always talking hoops, always talking sports, always putting threads out historically. So head on there over there and check that out. But in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching the video, and it's goodbye for now.